this afternoon's meeting of the Lynn Haven Community Redevelopment Agency, known as the CRA. And so this meeting is now called to order. Item number 2 on the meeting's agenda is public commentary. If there is anyone present today who has something they would like to say to address the CRA board or the public, please feel free to do that at this time by approaching the microphone. For public commentary? Sure, go ahead.
My name is Ben Jenkins, CRA Director. I just wanted to brief the board on 2 projects that I'm currently working on, kind of like while I'm doing all the other big projects for the CRA. So the first project I'd like to talk about is the bookmobile. We have about 10 volunteers that signed up for the bookmobile. One of the volunteers has actually offered her help to coordinate all the efforts with the other volunteers. They're currently working on sorting, organizing, and shelving the books at the bookmobile. Their plan is to contact the other volunteers after Christmas to kind of start a work schedule. What they anticipate is to have the bookmobile open to the public on Tuesdays and Thursdays for half a day each. To kind of, that would be the schedule they would start with, and to kind of see how the demand is and then make any changes accordingly. So they're actively working on this. They're anticipating to start the bookmobile the end of January, and they're even thinking about some ideas, some projects such as the storytelling program at the amphitheater here at Sheffield Park. So they're very excited about it, and looking forward to the time to offer this service to the community.
That sounds lovely. Thank you for all of your efforts.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, may I ask him a question real quick?
Of course.
Mr. Jenke, you said they're going to be open on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I had a question. I'll be darned if I have everybody asking about this, and I keep telling them, I know the volunteers are getting together and everything. Do you know if they're going to be open in the morning or the afternoon?
They haven't told me this. I'm really kind of staying out of the details, and the coordinator is she is really they're trying to come up with a system to see if it works, and if they have it open in the mornings and they see a lot of demand or requests for afternoon hours, they will certainly change the schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The other project I wanted to mention is you may recall the city signed an agreement with the local Lynn Haven Rotary Club to receive $30,000 for planting some trees. So I hired an arborist actually to identify some sites where we can plant these trees in the public right-of-way. And we're getting ready to send out some letters to the property owners that own some property adjacent to these sites, because we need their help. Planting 300-400 trees is a lot of work, and a lot of trees that need to be watered once they're planted. So so this project is in the works. It's based on a reimbursement basis, basically. So once we receive the receipt from a paid invoice, we can submit this to Rotary, and then they will reimburse us for the expense.
Ben,
Go ahead.
With the planting of the trees, I'm not sure when Earth Day is or any of that, but maybe we could coordinate with our schools as well. When we get closer to that time, I know, a lot of the kids went through the same things we went through. So helping them kind of come full circle and plant a tree after seeing all our trees get knocked down, it may be a good thing for our children as well. So
absolutely.
Just keep that in mind.
And Mayor, just to piggyback off that, Arbor Day is actually in April, and what we do is that we do coordinate that with our schools, so that can be part of our Tree City. When we send in our application, we have to have an Arbor Day, which we coordinated through the community for Tree City.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Any other from the public during the public commentary? There appears to be none. So we'll move on to item number 3. This is the approval of the meeting minutes from September 25th, 2019. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for approval of the meeting minutes from September 25th. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to these minutes? There appear to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so the minutes from September 25th, 2019 do stand approved. Item number 4 is discussion and possible action regarding the new CRA residential paint program. I know we've spoken about this before. Mr. Jenke, would you mind giving us a little update on what that is, and so everyone be familiar?
Absolutely. So I prepared this new incentive, this residential paint program incentive for the CRA. The purpose of this program is to promote the enhancement of residential buildings within the CRA. It allows eligible applicants to share with the CRA the cost of painting an existing residential property within the CRA. So this is one of the projects that is on my to-do list for this fiscal year. I presented the draft incentive program to the advisory board. They talked about it and agreed to the information or to the structure that I presented. There are basically 3 components that I focused on when I looked at in terms of implementing this incentive program. How do I qualify for it? What is the process? What are the program rules? So in order to qualify for this paint program, there are 4 basic items that need to be met in order to qualify for it. Obviously, this property has to be located within the CRA. It has to be a residential building, which has to be at least 10 years old, so it doesn't qualify for new homes. It's really for some more aged homes, if you will. And the vegetation around the property, around the building, has to be cleared by the property owner so that we have easy access to the building, actually. So if these criteria are met, we can talk about the program rules. The CRA would pay for power washing the residents and painting materials. So it's a team effort. It's not that the CRA will be doing the entire work. We're providing some of the supplies. We will pressure wash the residents, but the property owner has to paint the residents. So there's some sweat equity that we're asking at the same time. The maximum amount for this project, for one project, would be $750. And the property owner would be responsible for all remaining expenses that are associated with this project. So we're not saying that we're paying for all of the paint no matter what. And this is our limit, $750. Program obviously is on a first come, first served basis. Painting is only the exterior, so nothing on the interior of the building. Paint colors have to complement the neighborhood. So I would suggest not to approve any extreme purple or pink color selections, and that's something it should really be a selection that is that won't upset the neighbors, basically. And then when everything is done, the owner would have to agree to record a facade preservation easement on his property. So that is basically a protection of our investment. We just gave you some money or some paint materials to update your residence. And for the next 5 years, with this easement, you're basically guaranteeing that you will keep your house in good shape and that you're not going to be changing the color in 3 months. So that's what this preservation easement is about. I think as part of the agenda packet, there are also there's also the program process explained. Do you want me to go over these details, or?
Mr. Jenke, if you don't mind, if you could briefly, because there's so many people who are listening probably through social media, if you could explain, if someone's interested in this program, how they could apply, just in 30 seconds or less, how could you apply for this?
We will, once approved, we will have the application available online. The application would have to be filled out and submitted to the CRA office. And then I will start the process with the applicant, prepare all the documentation, get it ready for the CRA board review and final approval, and then we can implement the project.
And I would have also one other question. I know that many of the, not all, but many of the people who live in the older part of Lynn Haven, we do have some elderly residents who might not be capable of painting their own property. And I'm wondering, could part of this application process, could we possibly maybe add, if this is approved today, maybe a line that says, I would be interested in volunteers assisting, and maybe we could get a school group or some other civic organization that might be willing. It's just a thought.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
We can certainly coordinate this if they're.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Please go ahead.
Then one of the things that I noticed and what I might suggest is if we spend the $750, there's no time frame on when they have to do the job, and then there's no recourse if they don't. You know, I would suggest putting a time frame in there, and I would also suggest that if it hasn't done within a year, that we can lien the property for the $750.
If you take a look at this, the application, there is under item number 10 on page 2, it says, I plan to complete this paint project by a certain date. And I left this open because some residents can complete a paint project like this in 2 weeks, and others need 2 months. So I think this is really up to the property owner's discretion. If it will take 2 years, I would have a problem with that. But I want to be clear at the beginning that both parties understand when they anticipate project completion.
Thank you. So is there a motion for possible action on the CRA residential program? Or is there more discussion needed?
I'm sorry, I
Go
just
ahead.
had one more
No,
question.
go ahead. Go ahead.
What is the easement? What's the measurement of that from the house that we're going to put on the property?
It will be for the entire property.
We'd have an easement on their entire property.
It's a preservation easement, so it's and it expires after 5 years. It basically goes away, but it guarantees that the property owner maintains the painted facade and doesn't change the color after 2 years.
And then my second question was regarding the color, because I had a very lengthy conversation with our last city attorney about color of house. And he said that there was absolutely no way that we can dictate the color of people's houses. So do you have a color palette, or how are you going to personally decide what color they can paint their house? I don't want to make that decision.
Well, good question. Thank you for asking.
Mhm.
The way I described this in the application was it has to complement the existing buildings in the neighborhood, and it would also has to be either a muted pastel or earth tone shade for this project. So that's kind of.
Thank you. That
Okay.
tells me what you're looking for. Okay.
Any other questions from the board or city manager?
Ben, will you clarify what is the district of CRA?
The CRA area starts roughly at Bailey Bridge, goes all the way south to 17th Street, and then east-west from Illinois Avenue all the way over to Tennessee Avenue, roughly.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? So item number 4 is a discussion and possible action regarding the new CRA residential paint program. Is there a pleasure of the board as far as a motion?
I'd make a motion on that one, yes.
And your motion would be?
That we approve the CRA residential paint program. I think it'd be good for residents that, maybe do not have the funds to take care of their homes. So I think it's a great program.
Is there a second?
I'd second.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second for this new CRA residential paint program. Is there any further discussion from the board? Are there any questions or discussion from the public? There appear to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
No.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. So the motion does stand approved. Item number 5, this is discussion and possible action regarding the approval of the residential incentive program application for 1605 Michigan Avenue, which is outlined in the packet. Mr. Jenke, did you want to add anything to what's already in the packet there?
This is another residential incentive application that we received. The application was complete. I would like to bring to the board's attention the timeline of this application. You will see in the documents that the certificate of occupancy was issued for this project on May the 8th. So that was basically the document that tells us this house construction is complete. This is done. It can be sold now. The application was signed on May the 9th, a day later. However, the house was sold on May the 10th. And the application, if you look at the form, the application form itself was received by the CRA on May the 22nd. So we had a discussion about the timing of this application, and at this point, I don't really know if this application would qualify for the incentive program, because at the time the application was submitted to the CRA, it was already in the ownership of the buyer and not the contractor anymore, who is the applicant.
Okay. Mr. Albritton, do you have a comment regarding this?
Mayor, my understanding is that the application was signed prior to the sale, but the application was not received by the city of Lynn Haven until after the sale to a third party. The CRA board has broad discretion in implementation of this program. You can certainly argue that this applicant was within the spirit, although it does appear that he was late. The CRA board reserves the right in its sole discretion to make any final determinations, and that's what this board will have to do in this case.
Thank you. Mr. Jenke, do we have any further, do we have any history of any other applications that have fallen into this category? Would this be the first occurrence like this, or have there been others?
Actually, the two following applications that are on today's agenda will have similar timetables.
And do you have any thoughts about why that this has happened now? Do you think it's because of, the aftermath of the storm? Is there any relation to that, or is this just a matter of, it's just something that's just happened and we don't really know why it's happened?
I don't really know why it happened.
Okay.
I don't know. This project was probably delayed in terms of by the storm in terms of project completion, but that doesn't really have an impact on
When
the
the application
sale
was
of
submitted.
the-
Okay, those are my questions. Just and we'll stay with just this one piece of property because they are separate items. But on number 6, does anyone else on the board have a question that you would like to address to either the city attorney or Mr. Jenke regarding this property?
Item 5.
I'm sorry. Yes, item number 5. Thank you, Commissioner Russell.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, could I ask?
Yes, go
question,
ahead,
please?
Commissioner Albritton.
Aldrich.
Did I say Albritton?
That's okay.
I do
We're
apologize.
close. We're close. Quick question here. In your opinion, Ben, is this something that is an issue that this is occurring like this, and we need to go back and probably reevaluate our process or our system, or is this just something that's kind of a fluke that seems to be showing up in your? You get 3, that you start looking at a pattern, right? And I'm not
Well,
looking for a right or wrong answer. I'm just looking for your opinion on it.
applications number 2 and 3 on this agenda were submitted by the same person at the same time. So I would say it's maybe a communication issue, and I probably need to do a better job to communicate to the contractors that there are some deadlines. If they, as a contractor, want to submit this, they cannot sell the house and then submit an application for this incentive program 3 or 4 months after they sold the house.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please go ahead, Commissioner Russell.
And not to defend you, Ben, but I am going to hear, while I have been a critic of the application in the past, there's a timeline on that application that says when they're supposed to submit, and it's supposed to be before the CO is issued. My issue with this is the person that's applying for the job is the contractor, not the property owner. The property owner is the one that is supposed to apply for the application for the money. And with the property have been sold on the 10th and the application being received on the 22nd, and the way I see it, this application is invalid because the wrong person applied for it. That being said, the homeowner can't apply for it because they didn't improve the property. That's the way I take this.
Thank you,
agree.
Commissioner Russell. So is there further discussion from the board? Go ahead,
Just-
Commissioner Tender.
Just one more. Based on what Commissioner Russell just said, obviously the homeowner paid that contractor to build their home, correct? So would they
I
not be,
don't know.
would the homeowner not be entitled to that money?
It could have been a spec home. So basically, the contractor just builds a home without having a buyer already
Mhm.
committed to purchasing the home whenever it's done.
So explain to me if what are we voting on? Whether or not the contractor, after filing a late piece of paper, is still entitled to the money? Oh, thanks. I'm clear. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we deny this application.
Second.
There's been a motion that we deny the application for item number 5, which is the property at 1605 Michigan Avenue, and a second. Is there further discussion from the board? Any discussion from the public? There appears to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And so the action that we have voted upon would be to deny this application. Now moving on to item number 6, discussion and possible action regarding the approval of residential incentive program application for 501 West 3rd Street. And I think you've already sort of presented to us what that is, but if there's something else further that you'd like to add, Mr. Jenke, before we ask for a motion.
See.
Okay. Is there a motion for discussion or possible action regarding the approval of the residential incentive program for the application for 501 West 3rd Street?
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, please.
I would like to make a motion that we reject this application based on the date and the applicant name.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board? Any from the public? There appears to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And so the action voted upon by the commission would be to deny that application based on the date being late. Item number 7, this is discussion and possible action regarding the approval of residential incentive program application for 503 West 3rd Street, which if I heard Mr. Jenke correctly, this is the same contractor, the same application. Is there a motion for discussion and possible action on this item?
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, please.
I would like to make a motion that we reject this application based on the same premise.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Any from the public? Mr. Jenke, did you have something else? You wanna-
Yes, I just like to clarify this. I hate to deny or basically recommend a denial of an application because ultimately the CRA wants to enhance, improve this area here. But I don't really see a way how this can be fixed because this project is done. The property has been sold. Once it's sold, it doesn't qualify for the incentive program anymore.
I think
So-
you were very clear in making your point. I think everyone understands that you are all about the enhancement of the CRA. So I think you made your point well. Any further discussion from the board? I think I asked that already, but was there any from the public? Mr. Walker?
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I agree with Mr. Russell. You and I have been very critical of these applications. The bottom line here is, and you've done exactly what you should be doing. You are paying the developer. He walks scot-free with a lot of money. However, these are 3. As I understand the rules and regulations, he's allowed 5. Do these 3 count against that 5, or will he be able to go for 5 more?
I would-
And
defer
in addition, just
Go ahead.
Mr. Russell and I long discussed about changing these programs for these kind of incidences. So I think we should go back to the square one and review these projects and make sure they're perfect. And nothing is perfect, but make it better. I leave the floor for the attorney.
Mr. Albritton, did you have any comments about what Mr. Walker asked?
Mayor,
Would
I
this
think
count against the 5?
I would
guess
have to go back and review the application in its entirety. We've only got 2 pages here. Mr. Jenke, do you happen to know or have the third page of that application handy?
I would have a question about it, in that because his applications were not approved, I'm not sure why that would count against his having 5 applications.
Mayor, unless it specifically states otherwise, I would presume that a denied application would not count against you,
Okay, thank
unless
you.
it specifically states otherwise in the application packet.
Thank you. Okay, is there any further comment from the public regarding this item? All right, Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll for item number 7?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldrich,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so that application again would be denied based on the fact that the date was late and had not met those requirements.
Mayor, may I make a comment
About item number 7
uh,
or just in general?
about items 4, 5, 6, and 7?
Sure, go ahead, Commissioner Russell.
Mr. Jenke, I would recommend in your checklist 1 through 9 that one of the items says, "Are you the current property owner?" And if they say no to that, then you can say automatically that this application is denied before it even comes before this board. That would be my suggestion. I don't know how the board feels about that, but I mean, it's my understanding that it has to be the current property owner. So if we put that on there and say, "Are you the current property owner?" and they can't say yes, then there's no reason to bring that application before this board.
I don't think I understood exactly what you were bringing. I mean,
I'm
because the
sorry.
current property owner, there is a current property owner apparently who is,
Not, but he's not the one that
he's
applied.
not the application. Is
Yeah,
that what
so
you're
the
saying?
application has a checklist 1 through 9. If we add to that list, "Are you the current property owner?" and they can't check yes on that one, then it's my opinion this application shouldn't waste this board's time. That's what I'm saying.
Mr. Albritton?
I've talked to Mr. Jenke today about making some modifications to the application process. So I think that's something we could certainly take a look at, adding to or amending the current application process to make it clearer for all persons involved.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
So moving on to item number 8, which is discussion and possible action regarding a task order approval for Highway 77 streetlight project engineering services. Mr. Jenke, we're working you very hard today. Do you mind just
Yes.
updating, not only for the board, but for the purpose of those who are listening who might not have this packet in front of them? Thank you.
Absolutely. When we approved the CRA budget for this fiscal year earlier this year, I attached a list of projects to the agenda or to the budget that was proposed or was submitted, and one of the projects talked about the update of the streetlights to decorative streetlights along Highway 77. So I'm basically following my marching orders. And this is one of the projects that I focused on. Obviously, Highway 77 is a DOT highway, so we have to follow their rules. And if we want to make some changes to the street lighting system, we have to provide some engineering plans, signed and sealed engineering plans that shows what kind of light fixture we're proposing and where they're going to be positioned and how they're going to be connected to the electrical system, basically. And so this task order would provide an engineering plan in order to implement, to do a sealed bid process, basically to find a contractor that will eventually install these decorative streetlights along 2 city blocks of Highway 77 here in Lynn Haven.
Thank you. Is there a motion for discussion or possible action regarding this task order?
I'll make a motion that we approve it pending discussion.
A second.
There's been a motion that we would approve this pending, possibly approve this pending discussion. So at this point, there's been a motion and a second. The floor is open for discussion by the board and questions.
If I may.
Yes.
Okay. The first question I have is I want to be real crystal clear on this. The engineering portion would be almost $20,000, $19,028 to draw up the plans. And then they go off to FDOT. And then how much will the streetlights? Or are you just asking for approval just to get the engineering
Just
done?
to get the engineering done.
Do we have any idea how much the streetlights will cost though?
I don't. because you can only give an accurate number or project cost number
Mhm.
if you know exactly what you need to build in order to complete this project. And I don't know this at this time
Okay.
because it has something to do with we need to determine how many linear feet of directional boring we have to do, and so that all these answers can be all these questions can be answered with engineering plans in hand.
Okay. Um, and we're talking about 8th, 9th, and 10th Street on Highway 77,
From 8th to 10th.
but one
Yes.
at each corner. So 6 street lights.
No, there will be about 10 streetlights in this corridor. There are, I
Maybe in
think,
the middle,
9 or
too.
11 streetlights right
Yeah.
now. The standard, if you will, is to have a streetlight at every intersection. However, the Highway 77 corridor has more streetlights installed per city block.
And would this be coming out of your budget, CRA budget?
CRA budget.
And Mr. Jenke, if I understand correctly too, we were talking about that these streetlights would have some aesthetics about them that would reflect what we're trying to accomplish in the CRA, that historical district, and sort of putting a footprint on this, especially this area around the park and the center of town, so that as people drive through Lynn Haven, they're not just driving through, they're seeing a footprint of a historical town that's been here since 1911.
That is correct, Mayor. The design of this streetlight would go hand in hand with the park lights that we installed here at Sheffield Park. So it's more than just illuminating a certain area. It's really building a brand. Highway 77 is the first impression you're getting when you're entering Lynn Haven and you don't live here in this area. That's the first thing you'll see. And the thought process behind this corridor was that we would start with 2 city blocks to see how it would look like, and how the residents really think about this once it's installed. And if we get a positive response, I can see this project to be expanded by another couple of city blocks.
Mayor, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Ben, we had a discussion about this, and I just want to make sure I'm correct in my understanding. The engineering is required because of DOT. If we go to continue these lights on Florida Avenue, we wouldn't have this kind of engineering bill, most likely, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so this is, to do the lights, it's a necessity to do this because DOT is going to require the engineering drawings.
Yes.
Thank you.
But if they're improved, we don't have to pay this 19,000? If
We
it's
still got-
approved, we still have to pay this plus the cost
Yes.
of all the lights.
It's just they
And we have
require it.
no idea how much those are going to cost. I just feel like we're putting 20,000 out there and we don't even know if we have it in the budget to do the lighting.
If I may,
Go ahead,
I just-
Commissioner Perno.
I'm not particularly sure. I know that the mayor and I serve on the TPO board. There is a lighting project all the way to the Bailey Bridge from DOT. So is there a possibility that DOT would help pay for some of this, or within their standard on a project that they've already got going?
Well, DOT is already paying the city for the maintenance of these light fixtures, these Cobra heads that are in place right now. So the city is getting a check every month to pay the power bill, I think, and the maintenance of these light fixtures, which are maintained by Gulf Power. But it goes through the city, and we're paying it to Gulf Power. So yes, DOT is paying for some of that. Gulf Power offers some. No, to go back to your question, I don't know if DOT would pay for this.
Yeah.
That's a full circle.
Yeah, that was a long way to
Sorry.
get to that answer.
Ben, if I may, Mayor,
Please.
you know, I'm a big proponent of beautification of our area, I guess, and I do see this as a key component of getting that done. The money's been budgeted for the engineering, and the engineering is necessary in order to take any steps in any direction, except for no steps at all. So, you know, I think it leaves us down now to, do we want to keep the ball rolling, or do we want to stop it where it is and wait another year? And, you know, for me, well, I won't say what I want to do, but I think it's important that we use wisdom here because the future is at stake for every decision that we make. And everything that we stop, as we know from physics, anybody that took it, way harder to get something going that's at a dead stop than something that's already moving, right? And that takes a lot more energy. So just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
if I may just
Yes,
say one
please go
more
ahead.
thing. I'm sorry. I don't really object to, well, I guess I can't say either how I feel about this. My question is, once we pay this, we get this thing and we start, would we have to wait until the next budget year for you to even budget the money to have the lights installed? So we're just going to approve this and then be out of money till the next budget?
Let's say hypothetically, we're getting the bids for the construction in for this project,
Mhm.
and the cost for installing these lights would be more than the remaining budget that I have for this line item. We could make an amendment mid-year to this line item and start construction basically on this project sometime in maybe May or June of 2020.
Thank
That
you.
would be an option.
Are there other questions or comments from the board? Are there any from the public? Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll for item number 8?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so we would move forward with that task order. Item number 9, discussion and possible action regarding the task order approval for CRA Stormwater Improvements Engineering Services. And if you could just give us a brief explanation and report for that. Thank you.
This is the next project on my to-do list for this fiscal year, to make some improvements to the stormwater system within the CRA. I used the city's stormwater master plan to identify areas that are prone to flooding. I identified, I selected 2 areas and asked an engineer to prepare a task order to do the engineering, how to solve the flooding issues in this area. So there's no single answer. Each location, East 7th Street, and then the other one is on Alabama Avenue. The reason why this area is prone to flooding has, the reasons are different, so they have to look at this individually, and this is the task order that they proposed.
Thank you. Is there a motion for discussion and possible action regarding this task order?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Questions or discussion from the commission at this time? Excuse me, for the CRA board at this time, I apologize. There appear to be no questions or discussion. Are there any questions or discussion from the public at this time? So there's been a motion and a discussion for possible action. So I think we might need to amend the motion to say what action that would be.
It would help if we had some clarity as to
Yes.
what exactly the motion was.
So if we could just add to the motion exactly what you'd like to have happen.
Yes, Mayor. I'll amend the motion to make it to approve the stormwater project plan for the CRA.
And is there a second?
Second.
At this time, Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so we have voted to move forward with the CRA Stormwater Improvements and Engineering Services. Item number 10, our last item will be the discussion and possible approval of CRA Advisory Board application for Antonio Bellamy. I believe everyone has a copy of that resume in their packet. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I would like to thank Mr. Bellamy for his willingness to serve. I noticed he listed a pretty good number of hours that he'd be willing to put forward, and we all want to thank anyone who's willing to voluntarily help this community. So thank you, Mr. Bellamy. Is there any discussion from the public? Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so congratulations, Mr. Antonio Bellamy, and thank you for your willingness to serve. Is Mr. Bellamy present today in the meeting? And he is not. Well, we'll try to recognize him at the next one. So item number 11 will be adjournment. Before I do that, I would remind you that at 3 o'clock, which is approximately 15 minutes from now, we will be entering into a workshop, and the public is certainly invited to attend. Thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.
I'm so sorry.